Welcome back to Pavis Pearls. This week is about unexpected. As I was reflecting on my blog, Pavis Pearls, and my video on YouTube last week about being grateful, it brought back a few things of unexpected gratefulness that I could not see right away. When I was first married in 1977, life was a bit different than it is now. My husband was in the Air Force, and we were off to an adventure to Cheyenne, Wyoming, his first Air Force base. Being young and starting our lives, my husband had duties in the Air Force that took him away for 4 days a week. Not knowing anyone and not having any family or someone around that I could be with, I'm not a person who just sits still, as most of you know already. I started looking for a job. I found a job at a large regional bank and was hired. I was very excited and started in the operations department as the assistant for the operations manager. That meant I balanced tellers, safe deposit, vault, several other duties, multitasking, as I'm used to doing today, and I loved my job and I loved my boss. Things were going great until I found out I was pregnant. Not because I found out I was pregnant, because of what happened at the bank. I didn't think anything in it and continued working as normal. About 3 months into the job, and I was quite a large pregnant woman, I was approached by an executive manager, not my boss, who said that the bank needed to change my job and move me from the lobby. I said, "What's wrong? Am I doing something wrong?" They said, "Oh, no, everything's great. You're doing a great job. However, you are too large and unsightly to be sitting in the lobby where customers can see you." I went, "What?" My mind reeled in the moment. I didn't know what was happening. I said, "You mean because I'm pregnant? It's not something like an incurable disease that affects my work." As I tried to understand and I tried to defend myself, I couldn't understand still. They said, "Customers don't want to look at you." I was still stunned. And being young and pregnant and not sure what I could do about it, I'm thinking there are other pregnant people out there. What do they do? But they said, "Don't worry, we're going to move you into the check filing room," which is about the size of a small closet or bedroom, floor-to-ceiling cabinets, which were filled with written checks that had been cashed, and that's where they were stored. That would be my new job. It did not sound like fun, and it was not easy. They said, "Oh, it won't change your pay. Everything's going to be fine, but it's got to be kept a secret because no one else up in that department makes as much as I did." A whopping $3.99 a month, by the way. I said, "This does not seem fair. I'm not doing a bad job. It doesn't make sense to me." They said, "Well, move or you'll have to leave or quit because we don't have another position and you can't be in the lobby." I took the job change trying to figure out what I should do. It didn't seem like there was much, so I started doing the job. I did it for about 2 or 3 weeks. It was a horrible job. Besides the fact that I couldn't fit the very large metal cabinets on the drawers because I couldn't lift them, and I could not put them on the table or anywhere near me, I ended up having to sit on the floor most of the time with these file cabinets, pulling these drawers out, filing little paper checks. I think you're all wondering, why didn't I do something more or do something legally? But at the time, I was 19, and back then, people could do a lot of things to you that they can't do now or shouldn't do now. So I ended up quitting just as the Christmas holidays were starting. And I thought I'll just wait and see what happens. I'm pregnant, we'll see what's going, we'll have our baby, and then I'll decide. But just after Christmas in January, I'm bored again. My husband's still gone 4 days a week, and now I'm even more pregnant, but thinking there's got to be a part-time job I can get. Not everyone would think I'm too large. So I started looking at ads and found one in Manpower and thought it said light office work needed for 2 months. I went to Manpower thinking that's a perfect job for me. 2 months, I'll have a little job in an office, and so I went to apply for the job, thinking there's no big deal, right? The woman took one look at me and said, "You don't qualify." And I said, "Excuse me, you didn't even ask me any questions. You didn't ask me what I know how to do." And she said, "I know, but I can see you don't qualify." I went, "Exactly what do you mean by that? Are you talking about the fact that I'm pregnant?" And she said, "Well, I'm not sure they want someone like you." I thought, this can't be happening again. This is a part-time job. I'm perfectly physically fit. I felt I should be up to the person or people that are looking at that. So by the time I got done with talking with the woman. I said, you need to let me try. What are the reasons that and the qualifications that I need? So I finally convinced her to at least check my qualifications. By the way, I had worked at a bank, so that was on my resume. She said, you'll have to pass a typing test in order for me to send you for an interview. Well, I'm not really an A-type typist, and I had never really typed much before, but I was pretty accurate in most of the things I did. So I said, great. And I had a good memory, so I thought I could pass the test. She sat me down, gave me the typewriter, put a clock next to me and a script, and told me to start the buzzer. And then when it sounded off, I had to stop. Nervous but determined that this woman was dead wrong and I was going to be qualified for this job, I took the test. The buzzer sounded. I asked the woman, how did I do? She didn't look very happy. She said, well, you're not very fast. I said, but am I fast enough? And she said, well, she just kept saying, well. I said, what about my accuracy? You said that mattered the most. She said, yes, you were 98% accurate. That's the only reason I'm going to send you, because you fit into that category so well. So she finally reluctantly gave me the name of the person that I was going to go speak with. I got the address. They made the appointment for me to go. I got to the job, and the woman who placed the ad, it turned out to be for Transamerica Mortgage Company. And I had never heard of anything like that. And I was there speaking with the manager. And let me pause for a moment to reflect that in 1978, taking that part-time job was one of the most amazing things that I could have done. The woman's name was Vicky. She led me on an interview that treated me like an adult. She didn't see any concern or problem with the fact that obviously I was quite large by then and being pregnant. And she knew so many things about the mortgage industry, about being professional, and about treating people well, that I didn't realize at the time how grateful I would be for her and for her knowledge, and how she started me on an amazing path in this industry. More to that part maybe in another video, but needless to say, Vicky was wonderful. She taught me a lot of things. I got the job. In 2 weeks, she was leaving for a huge trip that she had planned for a long time. This is a small office, her, myself, and the branch manager. So needless to say, I ended up being the person that had to know an awful lot of things to back up and handle the office as best I could with only a couple of weeks of knowledge that she had taught me. Talk about an indoctrination by fire. You got thrown into the pool, you need to sink or swim. The reason I reflect on this is because I certainly wasn't grateful at the time for what happened to me at the bank and being forced out from a job I thought I truly loved, and I did. But in reflection, it wasn't really going to go very far. It wouldn't have led me on a path that has been an amazing opportunity, and that something that turned out to be a very brief, short position, so I thought, led me into a lifetime career. I ended up staying there for a year with Vicky until my husband was transferred. And I often wonder what happened to her. So when I look back on the unexpected turning into one of the most grateful experiences in the beginning of a career in a world prior unknown to me, it shows me that situations that happened to me at the bank, while they weren't right, gave me something so unexpected, so rewarding, and so grateful of a heart that I had, that I was able to be led down a path that I would have never thought about. How do we handle all of these experiences that create an attitude, a determination, and a drive when others can't see the right path or the right thing to do? We can see the right path. The people at the bank were certainly not right. And they certainly, hopefully, have learned lessons over the lifetime of their careers. Ironically, this same situation happened to me with my fourth child, believe it or not, in 1984. And it led me to a new opportunity to move from Muskegon to Grand Rapids and start an adventure that has come to be my new job here, an endless opportunity and possibilities. Was all of the lifetime of struggles that occurred between these circumstances that today are illegal? I think at times they are. But what we do with struggles and our outlook on them and the people we share them with get us through it all. Once I got past the frustration, a little bit of anger, I do have that once in a while, I dropped to my knees and I prayed to God for answers. He gave me a path of where I was supposed to go, even though I didn't know it or see it at the time. What we're supposed to do and what we're supposed to know is something that is given to us at any length of time in what we're doing. So, what I've got to say in regard to all of that is don't give up. Never doubt. I never doubted that we'd have a roof over our head or food on the table or what we were supposed to do. But in retrospect, when we have those shadows and when we see things a little differently, look to those around you. Look to people who can support you. Look for a brighter path, something a little more than what you think is happening to you in that moment. Because if it wasn't for that, the future I have now and moving forward for my family and for the people I know is something I'm eternally grateful for. Through the years, I've watched and tried to associate myself with wonderful mentors like Vicki, leaders, people who see something in someone so young that led to something I don't think she would ever know. I wish I knew where she was today. I would love to thank her for the thankfulness, kindness, and care and concern that she showed me for that year. Her determination to teach me every aspect of this business in that short year was amazing. And that's where I think we should all stop and wonder and think about and be thankful for the people in our lives. So, what do you do when you wonder and think about your career? Who shaped it? Who do you think about when you're thinking about your own personal situation and future and where you came from and the circumstances that led you there? My dad and mom had a huge influence on me, showing me how to strive and to look for what was right and paying it forward. That's something that's been a part of my life. My grandmother showed me resilience and a comfort and a faith that never wavers, even when I drop to my knees, or it never ends. Those were my foundational paths to create someone, yeah, me and you, who are independent, strong and determined, and kind, but also lead the fight to do what is right when you see a wrong being committed. So with all of this, what's your story? Maybe you're still struggling. Maybe you're through that struggle. Some of these things, hopefully you can see, show some hope and gratitude are right around the corner. Maybe you have a story from an unemployed bank clerk to the now president of a multi-state mortgage company like mine. A dream I never knew I had or wanted, a path I wasn't really looking for, and yet have opportunities I'm eternally grateful for and that I came to seize instead of dwelling on what was wrong. I've tried to avoid people that were negative and detrimental to me and personally and in my career. So the unexpected can turn to gratefulness. And there are some of those moments in my life that have become the most grateful, heartfelt thoughts that I have. So I'm here today because of the determination to pass a typing test that led me to an amazing woman that saw something in a young pregnant girl to create an exciting future no one could have imagined, even myself. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time.